Hello?
Okay.
I'll be right back.
Yeah.
Hello?
Hey, David.
Hi.
Oh my God. This stupid passcode thing.
Hold on, I'm trying to turn things off in the gallery and get my headphones on.
Okay. Hmm. Okay.
Send me a message. Sorry, passcode needed.
Because it will only let me give me, like, I have to do either a passcode, waiting room, or registration. So I'm like, passcode would work.
It's just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm sending it. Take a couple of minutes for it to go out.
There you go. Luis is in. Yes, Chico's was available. All right, we got it.
Okay. Hi, everybody.
Hi, Chico. So sorry about this mix-up.
It's okay. That's what we allow a little extra time for.
Mhm. So we sent out to the people that got tickets for your webinar. We just sent them the new link with the passcode. So hopefully they'll sign in pretty soon, but we're still ahead of time.
Okay, good.
How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm in Brooklyn and busy day today.
Mm.
Yeah, that's it. But
How,
good.
how the girls?
Yeah, Booney has she's juggling a headache. She had a headache at school.
Mm.
We're just trying to get her headache calmed down. Other than that, the little headache crisis, they're good. It's
That's
Booney's
good.
birthday tomorrow, so she's
Oh,
having a birthday party.
oh, that's cute.
Yep.
I'll send her a happy birthday tomorrow.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so what I want to do is just check my presentation here.
Oh, let me make you a co-host, Chico, so that way you can share screen.
Yep.
There you
Oh,
go.
how old is she? Okay, so she is 8. 8 today. Okay, co-hosting and okay, so I want to go. Got it. accessing my screen. How many minutes do we have? Share screen.
It's just unstable.
Oh, there we go. Okay. Alrighty, righty. Here it is. Okay. Andrea is there. Okay. Everybody here? Or what? Tell me. Oh, okay. We started 2 minutes. Here, let me just check and see if. Just let me check and see if. Okay. So I've got a. So
David, can you?
to share my PowerPoint, I have to
Should be.
share screen. Share screen. Okay.
Oh
There
no.
we go. Okay. Share.
There you go.
How's that? Okay.
Got it.
Then go. Up. I want to just give a full
Full screen.
full screen, and that is, oh, enter full screen. Okay. Boom. Is that full screen for you guys?
It just made that slide bigger, and I can see the other slides on the side.
Okay. Uh-huh.
That works though.
That works.
Mhm.
Alrighty.
All right, so I'll go ahead and
Do you see everything on there, the little ones, and then the text on the bottom?
yes.
Okay. I want to hold on. I want to change that. Enter full screen big. Okay. You.
Tell Chico, there's a little view button in the upper left corner of the screen. We might change that so that we don't see the little sign. Yeah.
So I go to, what do I go to that one? I go
Slide
only. Yeah.
There you go. Got it.
So you guys see slide only now?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, perfect.
Let me just get the introduction. So I'll introduce the show, myself, and then David will introduce himself, and then we'll pass it on to you. And then we'll do questions. And once the questions are done, that's pretty much it.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
So I'm gonna need to share my slides. Is that gonna be possible?
There is a button I have here that says multiple participants can share simultaneously.
Okay.
So try it.
Oh.
Chico, you might need to stop sharing while you do that and then reshare.
Oh, yes. Yes, stop sharing.
Okay.
Is he sharing? I don't think he is.
Yes, sharing.
Yeah, he's sharing his screen right
Oh.
now. Hey, Chico.
Yeah.
Could you stop sharing the screen for a bit, and then David needs to share his screen really quick so he can go over the sponsors, and then we'll just switch it back to you.
Okay. Share. All right, sorry. Okay. Unshare. How do you unshare, Bianca?
Where it says share screen, there should, or on the top, there should be an option that says stop sharing screen.
If you hover, it says Melissa up at the very top of the screen.
Stop share. Okay, here we go.
There you go.
Oh, okay. Okay, now I can share. So I have.
So should we just get started? All right, so we'll go ahead and just get started. The participants should be coming in anytime now, but we have a good crowd so far. All right. So hello and welcome everybody to our sixth and final laser installment of our webinar series, brought to you by our sponsors and grants provided by the fantastic work of Andrea Pauly, Amy Pilling, and Emily Bartz. These talks allow us to convert to all those who participated in the spectacular exhibition in place, future artifacts, and remembrance on the El Camino Real de Tierra Adentro. This show is currently being shown at SFAI, New Mexico. The last day is today for you to come and see it. Please feel free to contact us for any more information about the show. My name is Bianca Camarillo. I am a first generation graduate student from Brownsville, Texas. Currently, I am pursuing my master's in museum studies for curation at UNM. With 6+ years of experience working in the museum field and community work, I am the museum specialist on the team. Along with curating and designing this exhibition through 3D modeling, I am also the lead proprietor and art handler. Now I will pass it on to David.
Thanks, Bianca. Hi, my name is David Sank, and I'm the exhibition specialist for SciArt Santa Fe and STEAM New Mexico at the College of Fine Arts, University of New Mexico. The show in place feature artifacts and remembrance on El Camino Real de Tierra Adentro is here at the Santa Fe Art Institute. Actually, right behind me is Chico's exhibit. And the show encourages dialogue on the relationships of art and science to monuments and other historical artifacts and representation through the lens of land use, colonization, climate change, extractive industries, and community. SciArt Santa Fe is a 501c3 nonprofit that serves community members interested in art science, highlights the long history and rich presence of art science within Santa Fe, and helps to further Santa Fe's role as an international hub for art science. Santa Fe Art Institute is an independent arts organization forging critical inquiry and cultural exchange among artists, creative practitioners, and the broader community. STEAM New Mexico is an initiative at the University of New Mexico at the College of Fine Arts. Bianca and myself and Amy are AmeriCorps members, and so that's they've been a big part of this as well. This presentation is made possible with the generous support of the Department of Cultural Affairs and the National Endowment of the Arts and for the Arts and New Mexico Arts. Any views, findings, conclusions, or recommendations expressed in this program do not necessarily represent those of our funders. Leonardo, International Society for the Arts, Sciences, and Technology, fosters transformation at the nexus of art, science, and technology because complex problems require creative solutions. The mission of LASER, these talks, Leonardo Art Science Evening Rendezvous, is to encourage contribution to the cultural environment of a region by fostering interdisciplinary dialogue and opportunities for community building. Border crossers comprise a series of lightweight robotic sculptures that poetically explore the notion of borders and boundary conditions. The inflatable sculptures rise to several stories high and extend across a given threshold. Their choreographed performance, originating on both sides of the border, would stage a symbolic connection. Our speaker today, Chico McMurtry, and his interdisciplinary collective Amorphic Robot Works have received numerous awards for experimental new media artworks, including 5 grants from the National Endowment for the Arts, the Andy Warhol Foundation grant, the Rockefeller Foundation Fellowship, and the Guggenheim Fellowship in Fine Arts in 2016. I'm just wanted to thank you, Chico, for coming today and speaking with us, and the floor is yours. I'm going to stop sharing my screen so you can share yours.
Let's get back to sharing mine. Okay. Uh-oh, what happened? Let's see. Uh-oh. I had a little crash, you all. It says it's downloading my lecture, but it's not. Try it again here. Okay. You all see that? Okay. Screen sharing. And okay. Okay. Everybody see this? Okay. All right, there we go. Okay. Can you guys hear me? Nod. Yes. Yes. Okay. Yeah. Thanks for having me, and everybody welcome. And we've just moved through all this technical stuff, and here we are. Yeah, it's a pleasure. I wish I would have been able to come out and see the show, but this work is moving through the Southwest and the borderlands now, and I just wanted to go present a PowerPoint presentation that goes through the evolution of my work and how I arrived at this juncture. And just briefly, the name Chico McMurtry, it's a peculiar name, but it's maybe not so uncommon on the borderlands. The McMurtry being an Irish name, and Chico coming from Francisco Teodoro being a Mexican name, so I'm sort of formally an Irish Mexican, and because of that, I've sort of I feel like I've been placed in this interesting vantage point my whole life, and this is an early shot of a work called Black Air, and the image just stuck with me because it was sort of I was in a way looking at my future, or looking at the future in general, and I tend to use this image to open the lecture because I feel like it's covering a lot of things at the same moment in time, and this was sort of how my pursuit of the work began. So this early work, Black Air, had to do with the moment of the very end of civilization, and of course I was quite young, so I was very influenced by my fears. And operating with my fears, I went on this adventure that led me to eventually making machines. And this is called the Tumbling Man. And the objective here was to make a machine that somersaults, but instead it became a 3-year journey in figuring out how to build a machine. And ultimately, it's a machine that draws empathy from the viewers because it's a machine that struggles, and I feel like it was very ironic that the human viewers felt more empathy for my tumbling man than maybe, say, a homeless person living on the street. Here I am in Prague with my telemetry suit, which was a suit that allowed me to move my body, and the movements of my body would control the robots. and a still from my robotic opera from 1983 to 85. And in this case, there were 15 machines and 15 performers, and it was an amazing evolution of work. And ultimately, I departed from working with humans for a while because I became fascinating with building this society of machines that reflected the qualities of human society. Here, a performer named Hannah Sims is running the string body, and by the actions of her body, she's activating a whole ensemble of over 8 string elements in this machine. The walking legs. So, of course, being captivated by the human condition, I became very engaged in studying human movement. And fast forward to the year 2000, this is a very large-scale machine performance called the Amorphic Landscape, and over 350 machines participate in an hour-long sort of epic evolution of organic and machine life. And then this has been installation in my workshop, which is called the Robotic Church in Brooklyn. And this is a scene from the Robotic Church performance that's made up of several machines, 50 main character machines and 250 different mechanisms. This is
If you were to take a
a
scalpel
view
and
of the
rip
workshop.
through the middle of my chest, my ribs would be catapulted outwards and all my organs would fly towards you, right? Can you guys picture that? When you're by yourself in a room, you know, you hear yourself breathing, you're really conscious of how alive you are as a human. I found that my work was focused on the most primitive aspects of being human. Those are the things that were intriguing to me. Looking deeper into the way humans are made started to become more of an investigation of sort of living things on a molecular level. Everything organic, if you look deep enough into it, it has a structure. Wait a minute, how am I built? How am I really built? I was interested in the idea of a humanoid machine that could stand up from a squatting position. I would go in and out of my studio and there was a door dampener, which was a cylinder. I stripped that door dampener off of there and I set it up to the compressor. The thing literally threw me back because it had such strength. And I'm like, this is what I need. Not knowing what I'm doing, drawing a lot, figuring out the process, talking to people. Eventually, we got this machine to display a very sophisticated quality of gesture, and it was the quality of gesture that I was after. It was a single important detail that I'd never seen before. That was to repeat itself. Each machine sort of the same process. One by one, they come into existence. One machine inspired the next, and I started seeing how they could fit in together. I had looked at these machines as a society. Me and my wife were going back and forth between Paris and here as we were dating. And at one point, it became obvious that we should get married. At that time, these machines had been stored for many years in Munich. This troupe of over 50 machines had toured for a number of years throughout Europe, and their container was rotting, and these pieces were just rusting away. So I thought to myself, I'll restore them and have them perform the wedding. We managed to restore a lot of the robots' memories, a lot of their sequences. The most important part of making this kind of sculpture is the moment when the piece comes to life.
So I just going through a little bit of sculpture out in the public arena. This is a sculpture in the Bay Area that it's at the Yerba Buena Gardens in San Francisco. And so this work is called Urge, and it's activated by somebody sitting at a park bench. So this has been working for several years. After this work evolved and withstood the endurance of being a public mechanical work, I moved on to this piece called Fetus to Man, which is a sculpture that is essentially a clock, and it goes through the cycle of being a full-grown man all the way down to a fetus, back to a full-grown man again. And so, and essentially, it calibrates with the correct timing, so it evolves from at this point it's fully a human. When it turns to the as it descends into a child again, it exhibits an old man side of it, and then when it rises from a fetus, it exhibits a young man all the way to the rising position. This is there was some excerpts from this in the video I just showed, but this is a large and ambitious project called the Totemobile, which is capable of growing from a car that's modeled after a classic French vehicle all the way to a 60-foot totem, an abstract totem. And so I'm going to skip that and just go to another model. This is a model of a climate clock, which we built for a competition in San Jose, and this ran for a year in City Hall. And this is a CAD rendering of what the proposal looked like, and some details of the inner workings of this clock. And so all of this is leading towards this sort of notion of what the exhibition is about. This is in the same year I began working on inflatables, I had completed this work, and it's called Skeletal Reflections. And the idea is that this humanoid machine mimics moments in art history. So if you walk up in front of it and you take a posture, the machine mimics your posture. And so it's looking through its library. Its computer is down on the bottom. It's looking through its library for various poses, and it chooses the one that's closest to the shape that you've chosen to represent with your body. So it reflects what you've done from its library of memory. So anyways, this I go back and forth to these important sketches. This is a notebook sketch, and this is I call this the inflatable body, and it was a notion of making a completely soft humanoid made out of soft muscles. And what I was after was a quality of being more human initially, and being softer and being able to respond to other humans in a soft and subtle way, which led to a whole series of machines over a 10-year period. that walked, that changed the geometric, the geometry of the architecture in which they were exhibited, and this is a sketch, an early sketch of one of these inflatables attempting to form an arc, and since the sketch, several other incarnations of these inflatables happened. This is called the birds, and this is in their death cycle, but they go through this life and death cycle where when they're deflated and vacuum is pulled on them, they look like sort of like remnants of life, or like a snake skin left behind. And when they're inflated, they're full of life and subtle and reflect both birds, perhaps legs, and they go through this cycle based on human interaction. So if humans crowd the machines, they get quite nervous, and the nervousness of overcrowding of the humans leads to sort of an early death cycle. Here's a continuation of these inflatables, and this was in Beijing, and it's sort of an early version of what the border crosser would become. So these four arcs collapse back into themselves and grow into these sort of spider tree forms / arcs. Some more of these inflatables, and yet some more. I'm moving through relatively quickly because I want to get to the evolution of the border crossers. But so in the case of this image, this work is called the hexagons, and the hexagons are these organic forms that they form geometries, although they are quite organic. And so when you chill out and watch them from this pillow form, you really get mesmerized and hear the sound and the movement of it. And it's sort of like referencing the beginning of time of these, where all these different shapes and forms came from. They came from these very early merger of moving organisms. And yeah, so a couple of shots of the installation. And then so working with my body, initially moving to making bodies, I became interested in what these geometries could do to the human body. In this case, my human body being sort of caught in this geometry that forces me to move in certain ways. And so the inflatable geometry controls what I'm doing rather than me controlling what it's doing. So I let this concept go into the environment a bit, and this is an installation completely powered by the fumes of a landfill, and this is a depiction of the Fresh Kills landfill, and these inflatables are powered by the waste, the fuel of waste. This piece never got realized, but I think the drawings are really important, and the opportunity to fantasize about what might be possible is a real important segue to the things that you actually do finally achieve. This is a very complex inflatable work called Chrysalis. So it's you step up to it from the ones before it, but what it was a completely interactive space that changes shapes, and you can move through it, and your movement of your body influences the shapes that it actually takes. And I'm going to skip this. Bianca, can you hear me? How? But I can't hear you. How much time do I have?
Oh, you're good, Chico. You're barely at 6:30.
Okay, so when do we finish? Just to sort of pace it.
It could be over by 7:30 if you'd like, or before that.
Because we want to allow some questions, right?
Yes.
Okay, so all right. So going back from this work, I became very interested in another shape and form of architecture. So this is these are the arches, and so it's called the Organic Arch Installation, and this is in Brazil. And the idea here is that each individual separate machine is able to become a completely organic shape, and then it goes back to an architectural shape. So you have this transition from these intestinal kinds of forms that you look at directly, and then at one point they actually end up completely surrounding you. And as you move through this tunnel, the machine is the each of these elements is sort of whispering and breathing as you move through it, and so it's changing form and taking you through this type of time tunnel. And here's a version of it installed at the Queen's Museum. And here's a super quick time lapse of the installation. I like this time lapse because you just sort of, in a few seconds, get the whole experience. And that's it. So moving on to sort of more of this inflatable architecture installed in a space in Brooklyn called Pioneer Works. And this is the biomorphic wall. I guess the importance of drawing, once again, this is a drawing that I keep in my living space, and it's a drawing that kind of pulls together all these things that I've been working on, and the drawing is called Numa World, and the things you just saw are all meant to eventually join together and be in one environment. And so the current project I'm working on, if you can see these little humanoid inflatable forms, it's a notion of, after this long journey of moving through these inflatable bodies, I move back to the human form. And the idea is that these human forms carry a chamber in their chest, and they're powered by this chamber. And the chamber exists in this, the chamber gets filled in this tree form. So there's this whole metaphor of the tree providing the air. And literally, if you look at the very right corner, one of them is compressed and shoved up against this tree because it's getting refilled with air. Once it gets refilled with air, it travels through the space, and then at one point, when it's low on air, it makes its way back to the tree to receive this sort of life breath again. And so once I make a drawing like this, I find myself as a sculptor and a roboticist spending years actually going after these things. So what's interesting is this drawing is of this installation, which was realized in Munich, Germany, and there's 10 years of these inflatables here. And so when it's presented as both a performance and an installation. And then this is a work that evolved simultaneously to the border crossers, and it's called the pneumatic Numa fountain. And the idea with this work is that it's built to endure weather and be in intense locations outdoors, but it's a soft inflatable. So it's sort of counter of what you would think an inflatable could do. And so in this case, this was installed for 4 months in a tropical area of China, where there was torrential rains, harsh sun, and extreme wind. And so part of what the work was able to do is was able to completely relax into a stowed form when the wind was too strong, and then it would go out and perform its actions when the wind was in fact lighter, and also when there was an audience in the proximity of it. It liked for the audience to be under it, and so it would be active in that regard. So what's interesting is this piece came way after the drawing, but it's very reminiscent of the large tree forms that you see in the drawing. So it kind of goes full circle. So this drawing comes from the original border fence. Bianca, you saw a piece of this at the ranch. So this is just a Photoshop drawing on a photograph of the border wall that bordered Naco, Arizona, and Naco, Sonora, Mexico. And this is literally like a 14-foot wall that was super easy to climb over compared to what's been built now. And so before all this is way before the inflatable work that I just showed you. So in a way, each one of those works was a stepping stone to get to this idea. And ultimately, when I built it, of course, mechanically, it very much differed from the way this depiction looks. But once again, the drawing being a really important link to everything, really. So here are some studio shots of one of the earlier border crosser studies, and a little bit. This is. What is that kiss? What did I get a kiss for? I just got a kiss. It's pretty cool. There's a scissor lift in the back, which is a familiar mechanism that you guys would recognize from gallery installs and such. So this is kind of like this was developed like a sort of an organic scissor lift. And then we were commissioned by the San Jose city to. We proposed this piece, which was the first border crosser, which is a massive undertaking and a massively big work. So this is the triangle on the bottom is 17 feet. And so the idea was that, of course, that this could bend over the U.S.-Mexican border. So it was kind of admittedly very premature. It was wonderful, and we accomplished a lot. But there's no way a 17-foot sculpture would be able to drive up to the border and cross over it, right? So I look forward to showing this yet again in another format. But what it did is it actually really showed me how important it was to simplify and in the process of simplifying, make more elegant this idea of the border crosser. So ultimately, I was after an arcing form, but how I got to it was an interesting process. So here again is another drawing, a little bit in the realm of the charcoal drawing that you all were exhibiting. So that drawing that's moving through the desert is one of these folded up border crossers, right? And in the very front there, you see the littlest one. So in a way, I was interested in those drawings. That the drawing and the painting that you're showing shows these border crossers kind of getting close to the border wall at night and in the daylight. And in a sense, these characters are stowed and quite shy and perhaps trying to be clever moving through the desert. By the time they expand and get large, the kinds of things that happen are reminiscent of these shapes. Wow. So the border wall as subject or as an element in the picture plane of the compositions of these drawings became super important. And so at first this wedge was sort of meant to represent all the different things that are happening. Not only is it on the U.S. side and the Mexican side, but there's multiple divisions going on down in the borderlands, and which led to this notion of this four-way division. In the background is sort of this polluted border town image, and to the right is this sort of tragic image of this country. It's an image of Puerto Rico after the hurricane, which we're supposed to have some, the U.S. is supposed to have some responsibility for, but it was shredded, and the people were treated horribly with that administration. In the foreground is this notion of our pollution. All of our plastic waste goes into the ocean, and in this case, this is referencing the Great Plastic Patch. So to juxtapose that even further is this depiction of a future city built by the extremely elite, and the city is, of course, not only behind this border, but it's also behind its own border. So it's a very protected city, and so this composition became an important aspect of what I pursued in the film. A shot of one of the border crossers in a performance space where I showed it often as it developed. This is the first one, And so the border crossers took me around the country and the world as they got developed. And so some questions the students might have would be like, well, how do you pay for this? How do you do it? Who helps you? What goes on? So this is during the residency at the University of Michigan in Ann Arbor with engineering and art students. And this is at the Academy of Applied Arts in Vienna. So it was pretty fascinating to go from like Michigan and the Latin community within the University of Michigan, and how the other community related to the Latin community, and then here we are in Vienna, and Vienna is this sort of hub city where multiple immigrants come from all over Europe, and they study at this sort of wonderful institution. And at the time, part of what the students were doing, they were looking at borders throughout Europe. And of course, the acceleration of issues on the borders have come to an extreme forefront today with the war, etc. So here's just a kind of a clean version of the form, and this is just an image of the border crosser early on at my ranch, and the studio where well, Bianca, our host, happened to be there. So this is the as you all saw this. So I'm gonna move on, but wait. So okay, so then this is a work that was built with the students from UTEP came to the ranch, the image that you saw earlier, and we began building this robot, and then we completed this robot during the time I was at UTEP, and the objective initially was to try to cross the border actually in New Mexico next to El Paso, in a place called Anapra, and so that was looking more and more like it wasn't going to happen because of all the issues in relation to immigration and Border Patrol's policy, administration policy. And so we started to pursue this idea of the water crosser. And the idea of the water crosser was a super interesting parallel for me, because I was trying to figure out metaphorically how would this machine belong and exist in our world, right? And ultimately for me it was a metaphor that represented peace and equality and unity. But in the film, of which I don't think there'll be time to show you, but in the film, that's the last image. In the film, this machine is birthed from the water, and the idea is that the inflatable comes from water, and the vehicle itself is birthed from the earth, and it evolves out of this process of fire and alchemical process of fire fusing and becoming form, and eventually it becomes the vehicle. And so part of how it takes this journey through time is based on this fusion when it emerges out of the water and goes forth. So for some reason that's my presentation. I don't know if that's too short, but I would really like to take some questions, and then I can show some more if there's more time.
Chico, if you want, you could show the video.
Well, the video that's at the gallery, everybody's seen, right?
That we actually have some people on YouTube Live. So this is being streamed on YouTube. So we have a good crowd there. If you'd like to, you could show that.
How much time do we have? Do you want to actually see the? I'd love to show you the 22-minute film that nobody's seen.
Yeah.
If there's 22 minutes.
Yeah, there's definitely that time.
Okay, give me a second. Give me
Okay.
1 second.
I was trying to.
So just want to find it on the laptop. But Bianca, in the meantime, as we try to find it, can we get a question or two from the audience?
Yeah. Yeah, let me go through them for you. So, okay, one of our first questions, are these large performances or operas centrally programmed, or is each individual machine running on its own set of instructions?
Yeah, so certainly the earlier installations are, remember Bianca? Kind of? Yeah. So the earlier works before the border crosser were, yes, they were programmed, and sometimes they were programmed to be interactive. So the earlier machines that you saw in the video all had some form of programming and were capable of being triggered in one way or another. The border crossers, when we first started out, we were actually trying to teach these machines certain behaviors, but to get a robot of that level to make it to the border wall and cross all as a programmed machine would be kind of closer to the kind of work that NASA's doing with like the moon rover and such, right? Where it's completely autonomous and gathers its own energy, etc. So we concentrated on teaching performers how to run the machine. So for anybody who's got any technical computer ability, I can explain it to simply. The border crossers have an Arduino on board with a shield that drives a series of valves, and all these tubes receive inputs through the air that closes the loop of control, and then through a radio control system, there's another Arduino on a radio control unit, and so the radio control unit is organized in a way of the order in which you should run the machine, and what it allows us to is to respond to sort of emergency situations. And so that's what happened. Oh, so still receiving. Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
It's downloading, but it's almost done.
We're downloading the film, but give me the other question, Bianca.
So another person put, I'm curious about how you learned about human anatomy or physical mechanics and robotics, since you were working with them in such an early stage of your career. Did you absorb all of this through self-study, take classes? It's such a huge body of knowledge.
Oh, wow. Okay, thank you. Let's see. So I think what happened was, as an undergraduate, I was studying art, but also minoring in dance, and then okay, perfect. Thank you, Louise, so much. Yeah, I was minoring in dance. I was studying martial arts. I was interested in all these things that a college could give you. So I didn't know what I was really after, but what was the most important thing I realized is that everything I did contributed to who I became. So I just started to do everything that was interesting to me. So at the point when I had gone through performing with my body, making costumes, making my first sculptures, I kind of dove into every medium that interested me headfirst and very intensely. So I taught myself about robotics simply because it was so exciting and fascinating, right? So the most important thing I think that I learned was that when I needed help, I sought out help from engineers and people who were much more savvy about those things than me, and I was able to concentrate on the things that the image and the movement. I sort of mastered those things more than the computing and the electronics. I have a sense of that stuff now, but it certainly wasn't what drove it's certainly not what drove the work, and I found myself more and more able to engage other people to help produce these works, and that's why I formed the group Amorphic Robot Works, which allows people to come in. Whoever's interested comes in and works with me in the same way I was able to draw people. I would go help people to pick up the knowledge to be able to do these things. So I think anything's possible, and so you just have to build up your all the things that intrigue you. So I'm gonna show you guys this film if you want to see it. So
Sounds good, Chico.
here it is. Okay, it's 22 minutes long.
Chico,
Yeah.
you can't see the screen if you haven't shared yet.
Oh, Jesus, I'm sorry. Okay, look at the share screen. Oops. Such a dork, somebody working with technology can manage to dork things out pretty good here. Here we go. Share screen. There we go. Sorry, you guys. Oh, there it goes again. Darn. Hey, Anchi? Oh, here it is. Can you see it now or no? You can? Okay. Okay.
Yeah, because you could hear.
Okay. Bianca, is that good? Are you seeing the text? Okay.
más, que toca tambores.
He sufrido, me he pegado tanto por tu amor. Que la noche con las estrellas salen, tú piensas en mi amor. Hiciste de mi cabeza mortal.
Ahí vas bien, güey. El border no, y se llama el otro. ¡Suerte!
But yeah, the film film's kind of ended. There's a whole bunch of credits, but if
That was great, Chico. That's a lot of amazing shots of your robots in action.
yeah, and things that you saw that you never saw come into fruition. So the
Yeah.
video that was shown at the exhibition was obviously the performance itself, because the other parts I was still working on.
Mhm.
So I don't know, when I spoke about the film earlier, maybe you can that helps you too. So I'm still working on it. I've done several more shoots to integrate into the film, and if we would have gotten to do the performance in an opera, that would have been integrated, and so we're on sort of endless hold, but ready to deploy. We're looking at San Diego and Tijuana next as well, but ultimately it's all about politics, isn't it? So
Yeah, I've been telling a lot of people every time we had guests, telling them that my experience in, making the robots, and also the experience that you were going through with the Border Patrol and trying to get these robots as close as possible, but, finding the US being really hard with and strict with their rules of like letting you do even just a shoot there, was, not an easy thing for you.
that's right.
But
The blessing was that we got to work on the film, and we were able to have a wonderful shoot out at the Bosque, the real Bosque, and so the film continues as the opportunities at the borders open up. We're heading to Arizona for the monsoons to shoot at the river up to where the border wall restricts the river from flowing from America to Mexico, and vice versa. And so that's one of the next big shoots that we're planning, which might end up being a direct confrontation with the Border Patrol after all, but determined to do it.
well, I wish you all the luck, Chico. I know you can find your way. So that video with you showing that film, we got a lot of response through YouTube.
Oh, great.
So do you want me to let you know some questions?
Sure.
So besides the comment of these robots and drawings are mind-blowing, it's like a mysterious little being trundling around, fantastic. A question is, are teams deploying these individual happenings, or are there coordinated performances?
Both. For the last section, that was deployed by a whole team of people, and two individuals were controlling the borders on the robots on both sides of the borders. For the other actions throughout the film, it was perhaps one driver and a team of cinematographers shooting. Yeah.
Another person asked, can you ask Chico how he got permission to do the border crosser pieces?
Yeah. So okay. So a great piece of luck. So that happened in the border town where I went to grade school in Naco, and so there was an ex-pastor who had been working on projects along the border, and I asked him to introduce me to the head of the Border Patrol, and the station happens to be across the highway from my ranch studio in Bisbee, and the meeting was set up, and to our very surprise, they agreed to help us to do it, and they agreed to even to help us with whatever we needed. So it was kind of a flawless event. It was unbelievable because the struggle had been so hard. So interestingly enough, it was a fresh Biden administration, and of course the fresh Biden administration wanted to have a different appearance than the Trump administration had, right? So as you watch politics through the lens of the border crossers, it's interesting because by the time we got to El Paso and we were doing the residency at UTEP, policies had changed again, and it became very difficult for the Biden administration to let us do it because of their concerns for safety and too much traffic and all the other things that had happened in Texas, let's say. And so it was a real good piece of luck, and so we continue to keep our fingers crossed for the next two.
So a question from Andrea. She's saying, I would love to hear how Chico thinks about contemporary memorials and monuments in relation to his work.
Oh, thank you, Andrea. Well, what's interesting is, to start out, that the answer is, having had spent a lot of time recently in the Southwest, again, revisiting and coming across various monuments just through my travels and looking at sites and trying to get a better understanding of things. Yeah, so, obviously before there was the border wall, when there was the like the chain link fence between Mexico and America, and kids would come through the chain link fence to go to school in my community, for instance, to before when there were just simply the markers, and so those markers were part of the whole the beginning of the Border Patrol, and various artists have worked on really interesting monuments in response to these markers and other monuments. And the slightly mind-blowing thing that I've come across was the role of the Chinese immigration, and how Border Patrol was initially, if you go to the Border Patrol Museum in El Paso, by the way, you learn a lot about monuments, and you learn about the role of the influx of Chinese immigrants had a big aspect to the starting of the Border Patrol and the growing and the strengthening of the Border Patrol. And so ultimately, so the border as the monument itself, and then the markers as monuments before the border wall, and even the way that the Tohono Nation in Arizona that covers both Arizona and Mexico has their own sort of markers and their way of defining what the border is and what the border isn't. And I personally would love to. I have an idea for making a monument that would be permanent. It could be permanent, but that hasn't initiated or started. But that's sort of my take on the wall as a monument, Andrea.
So a follow-up question to Andrea's question about the performances, especially with soft robots or complex electronics, a mechanical work that may not hold up over time. So basically the upkeep of these robots, how do you?
Oh yeah, it's a super it's a really good question. The people on the American side were freaking out that the border crosser was going to slice itself open on the razor wire. So if the border crosser, which got like 1/8 of an inch from the razor wire, had come across the razor wire, it would have created a tremendous pow, magnificent sound, and that part of the border crosser would have collapsed and or gotten caught in the wire. So I'm putting out these somewhat vulnerable beings into this situation, and I have to admit, to the question asker, I was in awe, because I taught two people to perform these machines, and I sat back and watched. I was attempting to document, but I couldn't document because I was like, wow, these super fragile inflatables are right up against this rugged, harsh border wall, and I wasn't even looking at the side where it was about to get ripped up by the razor wire, but I was like, wow, how vulnerable, how extremely vulnerable these things that I worked on for years are, and their lives could come to an end super easily, and they managed this sort of gesture. So in essence, it reflects for me, it reflected what I was after the whole time, the vulnerability of each and every human who's trying to get across the border for a new beginning, a new life.
We got a comment from Susan saying, very poetic robots. Reminds me of Keith Haring's Little Beings, only done with robots.
Huh. Interesting.
So it looks like that's pretty much it for questions. We got a lot of comments of amazing, fantastic work. We've gotten so much great feedback from the exhibition, Chico, about, you know, just the video itself, and then your small model. People just are in amazement of this actuality of thinking that you made this inflatable robot and it crosses razor covered borders, and people are just like, how did you do this?
Oh, great.
So thank you so much for being
Yeah.
a part of this.
Yeah, glad you got great feedback. And I'm just sorry that I wasn't able to be out there to check that out. That would have been great. And thanks for doing it. Thanks for organizing it, all of you who have been behind it, and keep up the work in line with what you're doing. I think it's super important. Yes.
And for the audience, are there any kind of future events you're planning on doing live that we could know, or maybe a source that we could find out if you do on planning a live performance somewhere?
I think just following the Border Crossers on Facebook, and or the Amorphic Robot Work website would let you know when the next thing happens. And in the meantime, you saw that the film was definitely a work in progress. So I continue to integrate elements into it and shape that film. And so the film, you kind of got a premiere. Everybody on YouTube Live got a premiere of the film, and that was pretty cool. And so it keep an eye out for it if you want to see it, how it evolves.
Thank
David,
you so
are we
much.
pretty
Yeah.
much ready with?
Yeah, I just wanted to let everybody know to follow us on Instagram at SciArt Santa Fe, and also the exhibition is going to live on our website and be updated with a lot of images from our our Zooms, and also the exhibition and the opening. So to keep their eyes open and to follow us and to subscribe on YouTube.
All right, do it.
So thank you so much, Chico, for participating and being with us today.
Okay.
We hope to work with you again and, you know, see your work expand the world.
Thank you very much, everybody. All right, that was
All right. Thank you very
Great.
much.
Thank you,
Okay.
guys.